Hi guys, welcome to Westmonster Uncensored. I'm just having to turn the sound on my computer. There's a little gap. But look guys, I hope you're having a lovely day. A big topic to talk about today. Do you think there should be an amnesty for illegal migrants or not? We're going to get to that in just a minute. We've been having a little poll on Facebook and it's overwhelmingly that you don't want that to happen. You don't think illegal migrants should be given an amnesty, following on from a Boris Johnson story. We'll get to that in a bit. We're going to be talking about things going on across Europe, and of course Brexit, Jacob Rees-Mogg and Nigel Farage as well. But we start with that story. And by the way guys, jump on with your comments, but we start with that story, don't we, Patrick?
Yes, absolutely. Well, Boris Johnson has taken his foot out of his mouth long enough to say something highly controversial. Who would have thought it, of course? Bojo, the Foreign Secretary, said that he thinks that maybe there should be an amnesty for illegal immigrants who have been living in Britain for 10 years or more. So it's obviously interesting. It's opened up a bit of a can of worms. I'm intrigued to see what you guys make of this. Do you think it means that Britain's soft now on illegal immigration? Do you think this is an intrinsically terrible policy? Or do you think it's fair enough? If these people have been here for 10 years or more, maybe they should be allowed to stay. Let me know what you think.
Now guys, last time we did this show we had some sound problems, so let me know now. Chuck in a comment, let us know that you can hear us loud and clear, and of course let us know in the comments as well. Do you think there should be an amnesty for illegal migrants? Because surely, does it not send out that message to all and sundry? As soon as you have an amnesty for illegal migrants, it has one big factor. It encourages many more to come, you know, with the mentality that if I can get to Britain, I can stay, whether I have a legal right, where I've gone through the correct legal channels or not. So what are we saying on the, we're saying lots of no's. I'm hoping that's in relation to the thing.
Absolutely, well, it could be either. Really, loud and clear, Leo Mills, that's what we like to hear.
Fantastic.
So, Sue Phillips Legg saying, if you give them legal status, then their relations would come over and you could quadruple that number. I think an interesting element of this story is, and as we've just seen, our viewers, by the way, have shot up to around 700 mark, so thank you very much.
Like and retweet, guys, if you like what you see. Now, give us that support.
Did you know that illegal immigration is running at around 150,000 a year? Now, obviously, you add that on top of the existing net migration figures, and it's almost half of the existing net migration figures, so it accounts for a heck of a lot. And of course, even those illegal migration figures is probably just a guesstimate, isn't it? It could well be more, could well be less. Now, if you add that up over the course of years and years and years and years, what Boris Johnson is seemingly proposing here is that potentially upwards of 1 million or so people could well be given indefinite leave to remain in Britain despite arriving here illegally. I think what he's coming at it from is the sense of it would take them out of the black economy, as he calls it, the underground economy, the dark economy, I don't know whatever you want to call it there really, and basically allow them to enter into some form of legal employment and actually help the economy as a whole. But I am intrigued to see what you guys make of it, so let's take a few of your comments. Denise Story, definitely no. That means no to amnesty for illegals.
A resounding no from Joan.
No,
Thank you very much for
yeah,
that comment,
absolutely. Of course not. We are the laughing stock. That is from Lindsay Goodwin. So a lot of disagreement here with Bojo.
Now guys, I want to retweet or I want to like or I want to comment in support if you agree with what I'm saying, or indeed a comment if you disagree. I think people back Brexit because they have had enough of soft touch Britain. We've had enough of open borders. We've had enough of having criminals come into the country. We've had enough of criminals having their rights protected so that we can't deport them out of the country. The thought that we would allow people that have come here illegally, haven't played by the rules, that would be allowed to stay, and as I say, the pull factor that would act as, I think is entirely the wrong message. It's entirely the wrong direction, I think, for where we want to go in the future. I believe that the British people want a far tougher approach, firm but fair. We've seen with some people have conflated the Windrush generation. There's nothing to do with this. They are British citizens. We're talking about people here who have come illegally, who have no legal right to be here. Absolutely. They should not, in my opinion, be given an amnesty.
So Jennifer Murley Allen says that's the reason we voted Brexit. So she's in complete agreement there. Now guys, I think we are intelligent enough to see through this little PR gift here from Boris Johnson, aren't we? I think I'm sure you are, so at home. Why might you think that he's just come out and said this? Well, realistically, we've just seen the absolute own goal that was the Windrush debacle. The Tories are now obviously clearly trying to do anything to make it seem that they aren't this institutionally racist, incompetent bunch of people. And so what better way to do that than maybe for Boris Johnson to come out and say, oh, actually, no, look, we do want this amnesty for illegal migrants. Do I realistically think that Boris Johnson thinks that's a good idea? Do I realistically think that he thinks that's going to play well with the British public? No, of course. But you know what? It might try to make them look a little bit less racist.
We've got Beck saying, spot on, sir. Thank you very much, whether it's directed at me or Patrick. Guys, if it's your first time watching, Westmonster Uncensored is 1 o'clock, 1 p.m. UK time. It's Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Don't forget to head over to westmonster.com where you can see all the things we talk about, all of our stories, and also westmonster.com/support. If you want to support us, give us a retweet, give us a like. I think you're going to be interested in this next story because we're now going to be talking about a very interesting article, Nigel Farage. Let us know what you think. A lot of support, I think, for Nigel and the other man we're talking about here, Jacob Rees-Mogg. Nigel backing Mogg, saying this is the leader that Britain needs at this dreadful time. I think we've got a quote as well of what he said. There it is. At this dreadful time when watching the Brexit process has been a total purgatory, all I can say is thank goodness for Rees-Mogg. Well, if you agree, give us a retweet, give us a like, let us know what you think about that.
Moggy, Moggy, Moggy.
The Mogg momentum is real. I mean, we see it on this show all the time, don't we, Patrick?
Absolutely, yeah.
You guys love it, don't you?
You always go crazy for Mogg. I mean, imagine what viewing figures we should get. I reckon that we should start some form of petition where you should all write in, bombard the Mogster with your letters and emails and get him on this show. But that may well take a little while. I
mean, that's a pairing, isn't it? That you wouldn't see any amnesties dished out under a sort of a Farage Rees-Mogg coalition, would you? And I think,
no, you'd imagine not.
And I think this plays into the wider debate we're having at the moment in terms of Brexit, guys. I know a lot of you guys voted leave. There's a lot of concern over what's happening, the pace of what's happening. Is there going to be sell-out in the customs union? Well, very interesting. We did a story today. We can just bring it up. Well, no, I don't think we have got it actually. But if you go to westmonster.com, you can see this. Basically on Brussels ramping up pressure for the UK to remain in the EU customs union. And the bit that got me, guys, the bit that got me about this story is, guess what the EU official's been briefing? The UK can have a better deal than Turkey if we stay in the customs union. So Turkey, who the European Union have funneled money into, billions of pounds to prepare them to join. Oh, you can have a better deal than them. You know, the UK that's been a complete cash cow for the European Union. Increasingly delusional tone from Brussels, I think.
Yeah.
British people voted to leave the customs union, leave the single market. Anything less than that, I think there'll be massive anger. Do you agree?
Absolutely. Well, look, guys, you are also in for a bit of a treat because later on in the show we do have a Tory MP who's supposed to be coming in to talk to us about this very topic on the customs union. He has some very strong views. It's Daniel Kawczynski. And he's regular here at Westmonster, and I'm sure you will all like what he has to say, so do stay tuned for that. But yes, on the issue of the customs union, just dwelling on this debacle for a little while, how on earth do people really think that staying in the customs union would be some kind of good idea? Because, of course, it's not really Brexit, is it? The other things, you can dress up slightly. The fisheries angle of it, you could go, oh, well, we've taken back control and we're almost loaning our waters to other things. You can see how they can dress that up. You can almost spin the migration side of things. You can almost spin the ECJ in a way. The one thing that you cannot spin at all is Britain able to go and negotiate free trade deals with whoever it wants, whenever it wants to? The answer to that is either yes or no. And if the answer to that is no, then that's not Brexit. And that is what a customs union membership would result in. So really, I'm sure it's got a lot of you guys hot under the collar, so we want your views on this. Send them through to us. Come on.
Don't forget, guys, the big contradiction that makes me laugh about this is you hear all these people, you know, these lefties talk about how internationalist and tolerant and open-minded they are, and we all, you know, we love the world. And they want to stop the UK from negotiating global trade deals. The EU official that briefed out this story today about this wonderful deal on the table for us actually said, well, no, you won't have a seat at the table. Don't get too carried away. I mean, it's a totally ridiculous situation, guys, that they want to keep us shackled to this customs union that doesn't allow Brexit Britain to negotiate global trade deals. It's outdated. I don't think it's got the public support. That's what you saw in the referendum. It's time to ditch it.
On just returning slightly back to the illegal immigration thing that we say, we're still getting a lot of your comments in. On that, just say no, the country's a laughing stock. Send the illegal immigrants back. Our country has gone downhill. That's from Tina Davies. Now, on the customs union, Alexander Smith's been in touch, regular on the show. Thank you very much, Alexander, as always. Very welcome to have you on. No customs union. That will be a smack in the face for all the countries currently wanting trade talk with us. And that's it, isn't it? Liam Fox has been out racking up the air miles, hasn't he, for a year and a bit now, jet setting, talking to something like 21 countries, I believe, we're currently undergoing negotiations with. Well, what happens there then? Sorry, Liam, that's a year and a half of your life you're never going to get back, mate, because, you know, all of a sudden we're not allowed to... I mean, very much, you've pressed the flesh in several different countries on several different continents, but it's amounted to absolutely nothing. You might as well have been on gardening leave, surely, if we enter into some kind of customs union.
Now, we're just going to move this on a little bit now. A story, you know, we're big supporters, obviously, Westmonster, of Britain's armed forces.
Absolutely.
World leading, world class. And Patrick, we're not getting the backing we deserve.
No, we're absolutely not. And just a quick aside, just to see what we've got. So many of you watching as well. If you, like us, support the armed forces, if you, like us, back Brexit, if you, like us, want to see tougher sentences on crime, etc., like that, a real reintroduction of law and order into British society, then please help donate to Westmonster, help support Westmonster. You can help us go and bring you the news that you want to see, taking down the mainstream media. So thank you very much. But yes, on the armed forces and on the military, Britain's military now only has 60,000 soldiers ready for frontline battle. So to put that into context, Vladimir Putin has 400,000. So there you go, I'll leave that there. Documents reveal, and it was revealed by the Mirror, that 77,467 trained soldiers are currently in Britain's military. 17,000 of them have been medically downgraded, and there's a few others as well, as you can imagine, that aren't fit to fight. Basically, the thing is here, we've got a chronically underfunded armed forces, haven't we? We've got no real desire from the government whatsoever to instill the armed forces into Britain. They've put all their money into the nuclear option, haven't they? And here we are with a horribly depleted force.
No, I just want to get to this next story, guys, because this is an absolute horror show. I mean, this story you will not believe, and I'm frankly surprised it hasn't got more coverage. This shows you how far, how nutty, how weak, how feeble things in Europe have become. Because guess who's living in Germany? Guess who's claiming benefits in Germany with his family? It's Osama bin Laden's ex-bodyguard.
Yeah.
No, I kid you not. Yeah. Osama bin Laden's ex-bodyguard, it's been reported in the German media, living on benefits in Germany. And not only that, can't be deported, you've guessed it, because of his human rights, because he might be tortured if he's shipped back abroad.
Honestly, guys, it's
insane.
It's not April Fool's
insane.
Day. It's not April Fool's Day. I know it sounds like it. I know this sounds like fake news. You literally couldn't make this up. Even if you were trying to make up a news story, you couldn't come up with this. Osama bin Laden's former bodyguard. I mean, a bloke who's worked for the man that has literally plotted 9/11 is now just living in Germany, freely wandering around. I mean, come on, really?
What has it come to? What has it come to? And I've had people turn around to me and say, some journalists on Twitter, oh, well, it's nothing to do with Angela Merkel, nothing to do with, it's the courts. I'm sorry. If your system, if your political system, if your judiciary, whatever it is allowing someone like that protection and you to stay in your country when we've seen the disgusting terror attacks from jihadi nutcases that have swept through Europe, and this guy is getting paid out of the German taxpayer.
Crackers, isn't it?
This system is not fit for purpose. Whether you talk about the courts, whether you talk about the lack of political will to get people like this out of the country, it's an absolute, I think, symbolic, story that shows you what is going on in not just in Angela Merkel's Europe, but right across Europe. You've got weak politicians, you've got a system not fit for purpose, and I would argue that the politicians that are overseeing this and the courts that made that decision are not, they're not adequately protecting the safety of German citizens.
I mean, it's interesting, isn't it? Because you would have thought if you were in charge of a country like Angela Merkel is, and your courts, for whatever reason, decide that the former bodyguard of Osama bin Laden is not able to be deported and indeed has a right to carry on receiving money paid for by the German taxpayer, you would have thought that's the type of things you might turn around and go, who has made that decision? Right, they're never working again. That's obviously terrible. Let's have this man out of here. But no, alas, he will carry on. And he's obviously going to have kids as well. I think he does already have kids, doesn't he? And possibly have quite a few more.
Claiming benefits.
And I just think,
Germany.
What kind of message does this send to people? I mean, that man is as much of a jihadi as anybody walking around the face of the earth at the minute, isn't he? I mean, by definition, if you don't just like turn up to work one day and go, oh, it's Osama bin Laden, right, everything's fine here. You know exactly what you're doing. And if he's allowed to A, get to Germany, B, stay and actually be paid for the privilege, I think it sends out quite a bad message to all the other aspiring jihadis that are out there, doesn't it? That actually there's going to be no consequences. In fact, you might get quite a cushy life.
It's an absolute travesty, and I'm afraid it gets worse in Germany because there was another story that came out yesterday. Again, I mean, this is absolutely sickening. Joseph Schuster, the leader of the Central Council of Jews in Germany, has warned against wearing the Jewish skull cap in public, throwing a shocking rise in anti-Semitism in the country, basically advising Jews against showing themselves openly with a kippah in metropolitan areas in Germany. I mean, what is it coming to here? You've got Osama bin Laden's bodyguard on benefits in Germany. You've got Jewish people, being, and everything. We all know the history, the sickening reality that Jews in Germany now are being warned for their own safety not to wear the
Something's gone badly
I
wrong
mean,
there,
it turns my stomach, frankly. And what's worse about it is, where is the outcry in Germany and across Europe that this is now the reality for people living in Germany? It's an absolute travesty. It shouldn't be going on, and they need to address why it's going, and they need to look at who the people are that are persecuting Jews, and they need to lock them, and they need to lock them up. And if they've recently come into the country, they need to kick them out. And that's as I say, for this to be the reality in Germany now is an absolutely shocking indictment of what is going on in that society. And I think that is what Angela Merkel is going to be remembered for. It's the open border madness. She's lost complete control. And German society now, in so many ways, has these scary realities of people living there.
Yeah, absolutely. Just returning some of your comments from the story that we did at the top of the show with regard to Boris Johnson offering up some kind of amnesty for illegal immigrants who have been in Britain for 10 years or more. Over a load of them here. No way, illegal immigrants shouldn't be here. Makes a mockery of the hard-working people in this country. That's from Karen Dean. Annie Wallin says, it makes me laugh. If you bring in an extra 200 cigs into the country, you're in big trouble, but it's okay to be an illegal immigrant. I find that fascinating. Thank you very much for all your comments, guys. Tracy Warnock just saying shame on Germany. Now that is, in case you're just joining us, the story that, well, initially, that Osama bin Laden, genuinely, and it's a phrase I never thought I'd have to say, Osama bin Laden's ex-bodyguard is now living on benefits in Germany. And also that basically the German Jewish Council is now warning against wearing the kippah in public. Now, I think that should be a big wake-up call to people. It should be a big wake-up call to Angela Merkel. It should be a big wake-up call to the German public. If you ever find yourselves as a society in a situation where people that were once allowed to freely express their religion in any way that they chose to do so, freely allowed to go about their business anyway, are now being reined in and constrained because of what? For fear of violence, for fear of abuse, then that is actually a genuine, legitimately massive problem that you've got in your society, and you have to address that. Instead of going about it what I would say is probably the wrong way, which is to go, oh, well, Jews, sorry, do you mind not wearing the kippah? Well, that's the wrong way to go about it, isn't it? Shouldn't you be saying, actually, shouldn't we be clamping down on the endemic racism and abuse that's going on? I find it an odd mindset that they've gone into there, really.
Now, lots and lots of you watching on Facebook, let's go back to our poll from earlier. It was on illegal amnesty for migrants. A lot of your comments still flying in. I mean, there you go. It's an absolute slam dunk.
Wow.
People want action. And what I'm getting in the comments, guys, what I'm getting in the comments more and more from you, whether it's on Brexit, whether it's illegal migrants, is you want action. I think the lack of action, the time it's taking to see what you voted for, which is lower migration, which is controlled borders, which is a crackdown on people breaking the law, that's what you want to see, and it's coming across loud and clear. So if you support what we're doing here at Westmonster, guys, don't forget, Uncensored is 1 o'clock, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. And go and visit westmonster.com. Check out our website. Like our Facebook page. Dive and get involved, because we are telling the truth. We are getting the truth out there on all of this. You probably didn't hear about the fact that Osama bin Laden's bodyguard is now claiming benefits in Germany.
You may not have
heard about the story that Jews in Germany now are being advised not to wear the kippah. But we will bring you the truth, the reality of what is going on. We need your support. Visit westmonster.com/support, but make sure you go to our website and you can see all of these stories and more.
Yeah.
The next one we're turning to is equally frightful.
Yes, so Turkey's President Erdogan, you may remember him from such things as purging his core institutions. You may remember him from such things as the military coup. You may remember him from such things as threatening to break the arms and legs of the Greek Prime Minister. But anyway, President Erdogan sees fit to come on a bit of a jolly across Europe as he's looking to hold election rallies in various European countries. Now, there is obviously a massive Turkish population, for example, in Germany. I think I'm right in saying it's the largest Turkish population outside Germany. Outside Turkey is in Germany. I imagine there's a lot of them as well in London and around the UK. So he's coming to try and basically harvest votes for what I'm sure will be a completely fair and democratic general election over there in Turkey. There's a few things here that is issues. He's actually is, I believe, banned from several countries. And I think there's a point that Michael raised off air, which I'm sure he's going to go on about now. It's interesting. You know, we've heard a lot about let's have the largest protest in history for Donald Trump coming.
Yeah. And that clever, those Muppets.
Right. Now, you might dislike Donald Trump, and that is your prerogative, and that is your right. Do you or do you not dislike Donald Trump more or less than the bloke who has imprisoned several 100,000 people in his country, basically completely undermined the free press, purged the academic side of things in his country, presides over a country that's becoming more and more of a kind of Islamist state, has done nothing to clamp down on terrorism. In fact, there are strong rumours that certain things have been allowed to happen. Do you or do you not dislike Recep Erdogan more than Donald Trump? If he comes to Britain to do a rally, how many people do you think Owen Jones is going to be there, stood at the front with a placard? I very much doubt it. I find it very odd, I find it very odd.
I mean, the thing for me is nothing symbolises the European Union's weakness more than the fact that they've been given billions of pounds, funneling it into Turkey at a rate of knots. And there you've got this sort of Islamist wannabe dictator now going to go gallivant around the whole of Europe and doing a rally. And the European Union, don't forget, and again, this gets massively swept under the rug. The European Union hasn't actually ruled out Turkey joining. In fact, another story that I'll just talk to you about quickly is the fact that the European Union now, Donald Tusk yesterday said, and I want to get the exact words up for this, guys, because you aren't going to believe this. Donald Tusk, one of the EU's many unelected presidents, you know, they're a dime a dozen really. It kind of ties into this thing with Turkey. So let me just get it up. This is what Donald Tusk said yesterday, the EU's Donald Tusk. I have no doubt that it's in the best interest of the EU, the best interest of the EU and Albania that the entire Western Balkans region is fully integrated into the EU.
Right.
The process will resemble more hurdles raced than a motorway, but full integration remains our common destiny. So there you go. You've got Eurosceptics winning election after election after election. You've got the Polish Eurosceptic government. You've got Viktor Orban in Hungary. And the European Union, their eyes are on expanding to the likes of Albania and Macedonia. I mean, that's going to go down well, isn't it? That's going to go down well in Italy. That's going to go down well in Greece. No. We were in the midst of a migrant crisis. We've totally lost control of it. Let's open our borders up to the likes of Albania and Macedonia. But this is what is at the heart of the European Union project, guys. They want to enlarge. They constantly want to evolve. They constantly want to grab more powers. They constantly want more countries to join because they are power hungry. That is what they are. They are building their empire. They want Turkey and they want Albania and they want Macedonia, and take it from the EU's Donald Tusk, it's a common destiny. Absolutely insane.
Well, Alison Stubbs just said Donald Tusk is a lunatic, and we've got a few others here. John Ampleford saying Erdogan is a tyrant and shouldn't be given the time of day. I mean, it's absolutely fascinating, isn't it? As Michael's rightly said there, you know, the EU undeniably has got several problems. Some would argue completely of its own making, of course, with regards to countries basically just fundamentally rejecting the European project at pretty much every election. The response that they've had to that is to go, oh, well, right, what we need to do now is obviously massively expand. What we need to do now is...
It's crackers!
We've identified the fact that we've got a massive problem with the migrant crisis and the fact that we're not able to cut down on illegal migration and people smuggling. So let's open our borders through the Western Balkans, which is one of the largest people smuggling routes on the continent, or indeed anywhere in the world. I mean, it's absolutely bonkers. It seems like they're just intent on going about it in the most chaotic and incoherent way that you could possibly do it. But we want your comments on this, of course.
Now, stay with us, guys, because we have got a guest coming up, haven't we, Patrick?
We do.
We have got a guest.
So, later on, now he's stuck in traffic, I'm afraid, or he's stuck on the tube. Now, he is very tall, so I don't know whether or not that's his, or whether the tube's actually been delayed, or whether he's got stuck in a doorway. But it is Daniel Kawczynski, the Tory MP, the avid Brexiteer. He's a Westmonster at heart. He's been on the show a lot. Now, we are going to get him on to talk about the customs union.
Take your questions, of course.
And take your questions. It's a live Q&A. I've got some questions lined up, obviously, but it's up to you as well. We want to hear what your views are on the customs union, and specifically the fact there's a vote coming up in Parliament. Now, yesterday we did do an interview with him. We're obviously going to do another one today, but The interview is available at westmonster.com or on our Twitter, so do feel free to check that out. So yes, that's where we are with that.
I just want to reiterate again, guys, the European Union, I think as an organisation it gets an easy ride actually. You look at what the people, as I said, and it's your Jean-Claude Junckers, it's your Donald Tusks, they are intent on this European Union expanding to the Western Balkans. Just at the time that every election, as I say, Eurosceptics are winning. Every party that's opposing mass migration, every party that wants more stringent border controls, they are being voted for in big numbers by European voters. They are making gains at elections. And you've got the likes of Donald Tusk and Jean-Claude Juncker. I said this, Patrick, the other day. I think they've lost the plot, guys. I think they've got a bunker mentality.
Alison Stubbs agrees
I
with
think
you.
they're sitting there, they're closing their eyes, la 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 la, Brexit's not happening, it's all wonderful. Look at all these countries that want to join, aren't we marvellous? We're expanding, we've got plans moving forward. I think the wheels are going to come off the European Union very quickly, because when that UK-sized financial hole appears suddenly in the European Union, they've got big, major problems. How much money do they think the German taxpayer further is going to pony up to subsidise poorer countries? How many more migrants from open borders do the likes of Juncker and Tusk think European voters in places like Italy and Greece are going to put up with? Because I think it's not going to, it can't go on like this. And I think where Brexit Britain leads, others will follow.
Well, Robert Burge is coming with a cracking point here, and you've led me on to what I was about to say, Robert.
Don't lead him on.
Almost like we'd planned it, Robert. But he said for an economic community to be acceptable, it must only contain contributing members. Now, this is fascinating, isn't it? Because let's just say that some of these countries do join. They're not exactly paying for themselves, are they? Britain, of course, would have been expected, presumably, had we stayed in, or if we now do see some kind of rampant reversal on Brexit and we do stay in, we will be asked to foot the bill for your likes of your Albanians. They will no doubt get a lovely new infrastructure, a cracking motorway system, maybe a better healthcare service and all the little perks that come with being an EU member state. But who's paying for it? Well, it's not them. It would be us. It would be other contributors. So I wonder, actually, now, even in countries like the Netherlands, for example, or the French, if they get to a stage where they do find themselves not only picking up the tab that Britain has left behind anyway because we've left, then also if they end up starting having to outlay a lot more cash for these new countries as well, really, are they going to start questioning whether or not this is worth it? Because you countries like Sweden, for example, Sweden's really going through the mill at the minute. They've got massive integration problems over there. They've got massive violence problems. They've got a lot of issues over there in Sweden at the minute. Huge terrorist threat going on. And a lot of that has been caused directly by things that have gone on in the European Union. So now you're going to ask them to start forking out even more money to support, whichever tin pot country over there in the Western Balkans wants to arrive. I'm not sure that's going to wash particularly well with the Swedish people.
I just love the idea that you're going to say you're going to have the EU sit in a room with the Polish government and Viktor Orban and say, guys, we've got this great idea, right? This is our vision for the future of the European Union. We're going to have Albania join. We're going to have Macedonia join. It's going to be wonderful. We're going to have even more open borders. We're going to have even more money we need you to pony up to subsidise other countries. It shows you, I think, why we need to be optimistic, why we need to be excited and fired up about Britain's Brexit future, because we're getting out of this club before it really does hit the buffers big time. As I said, their plan is for expansion, their plan is for a further centralisation of powers, their plan makes absolutely no sense. And when I think the European voters look over and see a Brexit Britain that's had the courage to take back control of its democracy, control its borders, yes trade, yes cooperate, but be an independent, sovereign nation again, I think you're going to see big movements quite quickly in the likes of Italy, in the likes of Sweden, and by the way, they have an election coming up this year as well.
Yeah.
Big moves, I think, you'll see right across Europe of people saying, actually, what Brexit Britain has, we want it too. We want out of this European Union that's intent on self-destruction and has just completely and utterly lost the plot.
So Helen Mills has been in touch, thank you very much, Helen, saying over 17.4 million Brits want to leave the customs union and single market, and we want to trade worldwide. We do not want a transition period to continue to be dictated by the EU bullies. It's been nearly 2 years since the referendum, plus 11 more months to go until March 2019. That is plenty of time for us all to adjust. Why would we want to continue to be tied to Brussels as a rule taker with no say? Helen, are you available Mondays, Wednesdays and Fridays at about 1 p.m. by any chance? Because it would be cracking to get you on the show. Fantastic comment now. Absolutely.
I mean, we're still waiting for our guest, guys.
We've had a confirmation he's going to be here in 5 minutes.
5 minutes. So hold on to your... And guys, what I want to do right now, there's still a lot of you watching on Facebook. Is there anything that you want to talk about? Is there any comment that you want us to read out particularly? Is there any story you've seen that we've not discussed? Is there a point of view that you want to be known? Do you think we've talked absolute shite? Let us know one way or another. Your comments are all welcome. We are snowflake free, guys, which means if you come here and you're a snowflake, you will very quickly be absolutely scuppered by the searing heat of the truth bombs that get dropped down here, left, right, and centre. So I'm just letting you know. You know, if you do want to come and troll us, you're absolutely welcome. As I said, if there's any stories that you want us to talk about, we've got Robert saying melt. I think he's melting. I think he needs assistance. I think he can...
He might be calling you a melt.
Well, no, that couldn't possibly be the case, Robert, could it? Come on. No, I think... I think... Janet's saying, lots of people saying about the referendum here.
Want to leave tomorrow, that's Pat Shaw.
Janet worried about...
Cracking name.
Guys, do you trust Theresa May? Do you trust the government to deliver the type of Brexit that you voted for? Do you think she'll take Britain out of the customs union? Are you worried that Brexit still won't happen? Or do you have faith? Let us know again, it would be very interesting. Kevin's saying, can you guys handle the truth? Kevin, let us know what you think the truth is. Let us know. Do you think the European Union is marvellous? Surely not. Surely not.
Well, look, guys, just returning to the initial thing that we asked you on our poll as well at the top of the show, didn't we? We said, do you think that illegal immigrants should be given an amnesty? No, a million times no, from James Anthony Kelly. Deport the ones that that are illegal, that's from Nick. I imagine legally fair, so if you're illegal, I mean, basically what they're saying there is the clues in the name, isn't it? If you are an illegal migrant, then should you really be allowed to stay? I think it does, as Michael rightly said, it could translate in a way that makes it seem like it's okay for people to try to get into Britain illegally, which is obviously a massive risk. To see that if you do come to Britain and you do manage to get in illegally and you do manage to evade detection, that you will eventually be given an amnesty. Now, where's the deterrent there for people to not try to...
Let's just get that story back up, just for the sort of people that joined us late. Let's get the story up. Yes. Over on Westmonster.com. This was the story this morning. Rumours that Boris Johnson, again, has been talking about amnesty for illegal migrants. It'd be people for more than 10 years. We've had obviously a big backlash from you guys. You don't want to see that happen at all, which I can understand totally. And what sort of message does it send out? Surely this will mean a lot more illegal migrants on the way.
Well, bear in mind that there's 150,000, roughly speaking, there's around 150,000 illegal migrants sent to Britain every single year. That's obviously on top of the net migration figures. So that's a high number. It's a very, very high number. And the other thing that people need to realise about this is, well, what do they do when they get here? Very often they won't be able to get a proper job because they're here illegally. They won't be able to necessarily get a house, etc., etc., etc. So they operate in this dark underground economy, which actually fuels criminality, doesn't it? It can do, and certainly doesn't do anything to help Britain's wider economy. So, I mean, there is really an incentive here to either stop them coming in completely, maybe deport various ones, or if you look at it from the Boris Johnson angle, give them an amnesty.
No way, Boris, in big, bold, capital letters, says Helen on Facebook. So absolutely no doubt there whatsoever.
Leon Mills, snowflakes will melt under the Westmonster heat. Fantastic stuff. I like that.
Got to go, guys. Lots of support on the YouTube. Someone saying great show. Look, thanks very much for watching. Obviously, go to westmonster.com. We can see all of the stories that we've talked about and more each and every day. Get stuck in. We are still waiting for our guest.
He's on the way.
How long?
He's walking from St James's Tube, but because he's so massive, I imagine it'll be about 3 steps. So it won't take him too long to get here, I would have thought.
Yeah, so what we're going to do, guys, we're just going to play a quick ad, I think. You'll play a quick ad now, and we'll be back in a moment, and hopefully we'll have it there. So we'll just play an ad now quickly.
Cool.
The odds were stacked in the favour of Remain. The money was stacked in the favour of Remain. The government, Whitehall, much of these big corporate interests, all backing Remain. It was a major upset victory for Leave to One.
But you are going to solve absolutely nothing if you completely ignore the other factor as well, and that is the fact, obviously at the minute, that mass migration is having a huge impact.
14-year-old shot in Seven Sisters and left with life-changing injuries. Is this not a national emergency?
People, presumably a lot of them, would have to be watched, because although they say that they're not a national security threat, you would imagine that in fact probably they are. Now that is a massive drain on our resource. Do you have any idea how many people it takes to watch someone 24/7?
The United Kingdom is leaving the European Union. That means we're leaving the single market, we're leaving the customs union.
We will leave the single market and the customs union. That's not a matter of choice, that's a matter of legal necessity.
We're leaving the customs union, but we're aiming for a good future for Britain.
And the customs union, insofar as it prevents us from forging trade deals with other countries, we should be out of that too.
Because if we were full members of the customs union, we would not be able to do trade deals around the rest of the world.
When 90% of the rest of the growth will come, according to the numbers of the European Union itself.
But what doing that means is that we can also get on with the job of enhancing our trade, increasing our trade, getting those free trade agreements around the world. Why is that important? It's important because it brings prosperity and jobs to people in the UK.
As rule takers, without any say in how the rules were made, we would be in a worse position than we are today. It would be a complete sellout of Britain's national interests and a betrayal of the voters in the referendum.
Gosh, Michael's changed, hasn't he? No, there we go. So Daniel Kaczynski is hot-footed it here from wherever he's been. But thank you very much for joining us. You've made it just about in the nick of time.
A much older version.
Oh no, I wouldn't say that.
Yes,
No, you're all right.
old and decrepit.
Some people might regard you as the upgrade. We never know. You could be in for a job. No, so, but look, guys. So we have got Daniel Kaczynski on here, Tory MP and Westmonster regular. So thank you very much for joining us today. We are here to pick your brains on what's going on with the customs union, basically. As I'm sure you will all have seen, unless you've been living under a rock for a little while, it looks as though Parliament will get this vote on whether or not to keep customs union membership on the table post-Brexit. We've seen the Lords, of course, get involved as well. So I wanted to just get your opinion initially for our listeners here. Why is it such a bad thing that Britain could potentially be shackled to a customs union post-Brexit?
Well, we've just seen here in Westminster the Commonwealth Conference. Quite extraordinary, isn't it, that 53 countries around the world still want to maintain such an extraordinarily and unique, close relationship with the United Kingdom. There is no other country in the world, actually, that has the equivalent. And I've actually spoken to people, senior politicians in Poland, the country of my birth, have said, if we had that same sort of scenario, we would probably pull out of the
It's
European
like a
Union.
ready-made network, isn't it, basically?
Yeah, but it's more important than that. British jurisdiction is used increasingly in these countries.
Yeah.
Many of them, not all of them, but many of them share our sovereign as their head of state. The legal framework is similar, but also the language, the historical links. And I've had many people say to me, finally, you are coming back to your family.
Yes, yes.
And you know, 95%, and I've said this to you before, Patrick, 95% of the world's growth over the next 2 decades is going to come from outside the European Union.
Yeah.
What on earth would we? Why on earth would we want to shackle ourselves in the customs union to the European Union, which would then prevent us from using that unique position to create a tailor-made free trade agreement?
So we're about to see some kind of vote in Parliament on keeping customs union membership on the table during Brexit negotiations. And as ever, guys, please do get involved and dive in with your comments on this. Now, realistically, just looking at it in terms of the pure numbers, as a numbers game, the parliamentary vote, it does look a little bit perhaps like the government hasn't got the numbers to get through what they want, which is no to the customs union. So, you know, how do you think that should be handled from the government? Because it does look a little bit dicey at the minute in terms of the fact they might not be able to get through what they want.
Well, it's a very, you're right, the situation is very precarious in the sense that, you know, there is speculation that there aren't enough MPs who will block this customs union amendment. I'm very, very concerned that there could be up to 10 Conservative MPs. And I do think it's important that your listeners and viewers hold these people to account. If you voted for Brexit and you live in one of these constituencies of a member of Parliament who is publicly proclaiming that they are going to force the customs union on the United Kingdom, disregard and disrespect the outcome of the referendum, I think it's very important that you engage.
Yeah.
And particularly if you live in that constituency, but even if you don't, and you feel strongly enough about this, you ought to contact that member of Parliament and say, can you give me a justification as to why you feel empowered to override the democratic will of the British people? I think the danger. I think they're playing with fire, and I think the Lords are playing with fire. And there's a real possibility to create a complete disconnect with the British people and political elites.
Yes.
If it is perceived that we have somehow fudged this issue and not given the British people what they want.
I agree. I think that it's going to be very difficult for people to get their heads around it. You know, if essentially the will of the people, if the referendum is blocked, well, what's the point now for anybody of ever going and voting at a referendum again? Is it? What's the point of them bothering to really engage with politics, do it again? Because even though you can go through all that, it might not matter anyway. I think that's a very risky situation for society to get involved in, to be perfect.
Oh, hugely. But yesterday I tweeted the fact that, you know, we need to start looking at possibly having in our manifesto an elected Senate.
Yes.
And I want to make a point on this. The House of Lords, I mean, the Lib Dems are polling at the moment 7% in the opinion polls, 6 or 7%. Some put them as low as 5. They've got 12 members of Parliament in the House of Commons. I think you can, at one stage, you could fit the entire Liberal Party in the telephone box. I think you can fit the entire Liberal Party in a small cubicle.
In the back of a Mini.
In the back of a Mini. But in the House of Lords, and Nick Clegg ensured when he was Deputy Prime Minister that the House of Lords was stuffed.
Yeah, it's bonkers.
Full of Lib Dems. And these Lib Dem arch Remainers are quite open about the fact that not only do they want to force us to have a customs union, they actually want to overturn Brexit.
Yeah.
And that's critical. They want to overturn Brexit. If Brexit was overturned or stymied or neutered, then all bets are off. Then we're really entering into uncharted waters.
Now, I spoke to you yesterday and you said something I thought was quite interesting. It said something that certainly I'd not heard mooted before about the idea of how this vote in Parliament should be conducted, and potentially with it being done on the basis of a vote of no confidence to try and essentially kind of, I suppose, whip these rebels into shape, because you have got, as I'm sure we're all aware, the likes of Joanna Soubry's, etc., who seem intent on persisting with trying to stand for the will of the people. If you presented them with an opportunity, well, look, a situation where you go, well, look, go on then, bring down the government, or you know, do an about turn on what you believe. Do you think that that's the best way to do it? Do you think Theresa May should have it bill it as a vote of no confidence? Then do you think, or not? What do you reckon?
Well, I think that from everything that I've seen I'm not going to name individuals, but everything I've seen from a certain number of these people, their views are so entrenched, they are so adamant that they're not prepared to compromise, that I think that ultimately we have to have this as a vote of confidence. Because ultimately, there comes a moment in your parliamentary career where the issue of such a profound magnitude and is so intrinsic to the overall survival of the government, but also importance for the country as a whole, that a Prime Minister has to actually put it as a vote of confidence. Flush these people out and say, and dare them.
That's it, isn't it?
Dare them to vote against the Conservative government. Now, their own associations. Now, if I was a member of Parliament who voted against the Conservative government on the vote of no confidence, I would rather suspect that my association would be telephoning me the next morning and calling me in to have me deselected.
Yes.
I mean, this is something that you do not do to your own party.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, do you think, you know, I suppose without naming names you said there, but do you think that some of them would do that, actually? Because, I mean, that's almost unheard of, isn't it? I mean, it does seem bizarre that they would. Because what I'm considering is the likes of Anna Soubry they've let themselves get in too deep, haven't they, I think? You know, would they do it? Would they really vote down the government?
I think if you look, I have to be careful what I say.
Yeah,
I want to be as open as I can with
Yeah,
you,
yeah.
but I don't want to be derogatory and
Yeah.
and disrespectful to colleagues. But look, I suspect that one or two would actually do that, but then there would be fundamental consequences. Of course, you're not a robot, and people complain that there is whipping. And of course we are whipped to a certain degree. There has to be a certain amount of whipping because there has to be discipline. You had 300 MPs going off all over the place doing their own thing without any form of coordinated action. It would be chaos down there. So of course there's whipping. But sometimes we go against the whip. I've gone against the whip. Sometimes I go to the government and say, unless you give me X, Y and Z for my constituency, I'm not going to vote for this bill.
That's what you're voted in to do, isn't it?
It's a process of negotiation. But this issue is of such a profound importance, a once-in-a-lifetime decision on how the United Kingdom ends up being able to trade around the world is hugely important. And by the way, as Rees Mogg has said in the past, and this is something that your viewers, I think, might be interested in.
Go on, buckle in.
The customs union is actually there to protect a lot of, in the main, a lot of failing European industries, Italian footwear manufacturers and other things like that, which are not competitive with Asian counterparts.
Yeah.
And at the moment, that protectionist racket that is the customs union prevents us from being able to buy sometimes cheaper products from countries from outside the European Union. And who is it who spends the most as a percentage of their household income on food and footwear and clothing? It's the poorest in our society.
Yeah.
So why should the poorest in our society be penalised by these crazy tariffs which are in place, which artificially inflate the cost of the products that they're buying for themselves and their families?
Yeah.
It's nonsensical.
Absolutely. Now, just a slight deviation, very sorry about this, but we are getting some news through that apparently Donald Trump might be about to visit the UK in July. So that is some news that's coming through. It's rumours at the minute, it's whispers apparently, but apparently Donald Trump is set to visit the UK in July. So we'll all buckle in for Owen Jones and his massive protest then, presumably. Would you happily meet him? Would you happily meet Trump?
Well, I have...
Put you on the spot a bit.
I've met a lot of Trump's people on the visit to America. Of course, look, I think he should be afforded... I was one of 5 MPs who signed a censure motion against the Speaker. The Speaker, your friend and mine, the Speaker basically publicly said that President Trump wouldn't be welcome to address both Commons and Lords in the Westminster Chamber. I think that is absolutely crazy. I think he should be afforded that opportunity to address both houses. Let's not forget, Patrick, the United States of America is our single biggest trading partner. And in a post-Brexit world, if we can strike an effective trade agreement with America, the amount of opportunities for our young people, and that's what it's all about, for our young people to go out to the States, to set up joint venture companies with their American counterparts, will be huge. Your generation will have a profoundly positive impact on their lives if we can create this trade agreement. You do not create this sort of relationship by ostracizing, denigrating, and actually deriding the individual who's been voted for by the American people. It's a very extensive election they have there. Their elections tend to last for 2 years.
Yes.
They've got the primaries.
Yes, it's never-ending cycle of elections, isn't it?
Never ending. The American people, under their constitution, with the electoral college vote system that they have chosen this man. Like him or loathe him, he's the president of America, and he should be shown due respect, because if he's not, then we are showing a lack of respect for the American people who ultimately elected him.
Yeah, I do think, just my 2 pennies worth on this, is that we've created this void by shunning Trump, a void that it seems to have been gleefully filled by Emmanuel Macron, who's doing everything he can to replace a special relationship, etc. And I think people maybe have to realise, do we actually want to put aside maybe some personal differences that you may have with Donald Trump and some personal quirks that he may have that you do not agree with, for the sake of Britain having this special relationship, or are you willing to allow other countries to muscle in? But returning just to the customs union side of things now, I've just got a couple more quick ones for you here, Landon Daniel. So I want to give you a couple of scenarios on this one. So first scenario is Theresa May does some kind of about turn on the customs union, right? What happens there in terms of her cabinet? Surely that people have to go there, you would have thought.
Well, I've tweeted that I cannot see, and we're going to be putting a lot of pressure on Gove and Fox and Johnson. They led us in this campaign. They promised us that we would have Brexit, that we would take back control, I think is what Boris Johnson so euphemistically exuded during the election campaign. Being in the customs union is not taking back control. It's the direct opposite. It's allowing the United Kingdom to become a vassal state of the European Union, completely having to adhere to every aspect of trading policy dictated to us from Brussels without having any say. Yeah. So it's actually worse.
It is,
than
it's powerless.
It's worse than the situation that we have at the moment, significantly worse. So I don't see how any of those men could possibly stay in the cabinet. I also, if she abandoned the customs union, I also think that more Conservative MPs will submit letters to Graham Brady.
Well, apparently we're not far off the magic number, so potentially that could tip the balance, I suppose, maybe.
It could well do, because this is a red line. I've spoken to a lot of Conservative MPs. This is very much a red line for us, and I know that you here at Westmonster like to support Nigel Farage
every now and again.
And he says that we're flimsy on this. We're not. You know as well as I do. There are some Tory MPs for whom this is
it's very much a red line. Yeah.
This is a red line, galvanized, solidified, and whatever you can other adjectives.
Red line drawn in concrete.
That's it. And for us, this was all bets are off, but she can't cave in on this. What is also frightening is that even if we get past the customs union amendment, even if we can defeat that, you must really focus on this. They will try at some stage, Chuka Umunna et al. Will try at some stage to put an amendment right at the end to have this whole thing overturned. And that will be critical. And I think this is why I applaud what you're doing here. This is the one time where we need people from around the United Kingdom, people listening to Westmonster, people who are passionate about this issue, to be very, very proactive. Not just listen to the politicians. Go and see your Member of Parliament. I mean, I have surgery every Friday, so people make appointments to see me, and there is nothing more powerful than actually somebody coming into your office and really questioning you and lobbying you on a particular issue. A round-robin email that's been created by 38 Degrees, that does not get the same attention as somebody actually coming in to say, I want to see you as my Member of Parliament. I think this is hugely important for our country, and I want you to explain to me why and how you are going to vote on this issue. I mean, I've been an MP for 13 years, but we've never had anything which is important as this, because it will shape the destiny of our country for decades to come.
Absolutely. Well, look, I would like to finish with you on the House of Lords. I know we touched on it earlier, but it's just slightly reiterated for our readers here. And guys, as you know, please do pile in with the comments. Simon Marshall saying, you guys are doing a great job. We'll take that. Fantastic. Thank you very much. Out means out. That was from somebody else. We need 17.4 million Brexiteers to march on London, says Alison Stubbs. That sounds like it'd block the traffic and cause a bit of a nightmare, but it might well make a point, I suppose. On the House of Lords now. You have tweeted about some wholesale reforms, shall we say, to the House of Lords. We have seen in the last week that the Lords have blocked 3 different pieces of Brexit legislation, bumped them back. What's your take on it? Because I think from an outsider's perspective, it looks a little bit like an unelected, unaccountable House full of people that maybe are ex-political crony type people that are just defying the will of the people. I mean, is that true, or am I being a little bit crass there?
Well, I think in the case of many Lib Dem Lib Dem peers, they are failed politicians, people who have repeatedly failed to get into the House of Commons. They are party activists who have been given this position as a sop. Look, what I object to the House of Lords is this, and by the way, I have gone to the bar. Members of Parliament, members of the Commons can actually go and listen to the House of Lords.
Right.
There's a section for us to go, and I have actually, over the last few days and weeks, actually afforded that opportunity and gone to listen to the debate.
Yeah.
And I have seen these defeats taking place. I wanted to see at first hand what was going on in this second chamber. And what really frightens me and worries me is that they are making decisions with no accountability whatsoever to the British people. Now, I have people emailing me or coming to see me saying, Mr. Kaczynski, I don't like the way you're doing this. I don't like what you're doing.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to vote for you. Or unless you do X, Y, and Z,
Yeah.
I'm not going to support you. That's accountability. That's making sure that the person who is voting on your future, you can throw him out. These people, and by the way, there are, I think, you'll have to correct me, but I think there are now 840 of them.
I think so, yes, as far as I'm aware.
Are completely unaccountable. Nobody can hold them to account, and they can do anything they like without any fear of being turned out by the electorate.
So
now
what do you abolish it then, or what do you do?
Well, you know, many countries in Europe have a bicameral system. I believe in the bicameral system. You have an elected Senate, one option, although, you know, people have been contradicting that on my Twitter feed. Some people want an elected Senate of maybe 100 senators. Other people want some other variation. But I think we have to introduce an element of accountability by these people. I don't mind them. I mean, some people say, look, this is sour grapes on your part because they are trying to block trying to block what the customs union. No, it's not sour grapes. It's the fact that I want them to be accountable to the British people. They can do what they like. They can try and overturn what we're doing, but they've got to be accountable.
Yeah, and I think that is actually part of why they've felt so comfortable about going about this the way that they have done, is because there is that fundamental lack of accountability there. They can get away with it, can't they? Well, just a couple of your comments now to round things off. From Elaine, I'm not going to try to pronounce your surname because I would probably offend you. Elaine saying the Lords is a welfare state for the privileged. An upper crust dole system for political toadies. Fantastic. So there you go. Well, look, guys, on that note, Daniel Kaczynski, has been an absolute pleasure. Thank you for rushing in to see us. Patrick. Guys, take care. We will see you on Friday on Westmonster Uncensored. Thank you for getting involved. See you soon.